Hey guys, it's just Steve. I got a buddy on our off-grid forum that's wanting to make a set of rotors and stator for his small VAWT, and I'm going to use this setup my buddy from Belgrade Machine made me a while back as an example to try to help this guy out. I got to get this other stator made for him and send out to him. It's been quite a while, but I'm just now getting around to it. This stator, or excuse me, this rotor is only 7 7/8 inches in diameter. Okay, Belgrade's trying to come up with a smaller, compact setup that still puts out quite a lot of power, so I'm going to try to help him do the research on it. What he's done is, once you get your rotor set up, you got to decide how big magnets you're going to use, how strong they're going to be, and how many coils per phase you want to use. Most homemade setups have 9 coils per setup, so you've got 3 coils per phase. If you want to have a wind generator that cuts in an even lower wind speed, you probably want to have 4 coils per phase, so that would mean you'd have 16 magnets on each rotor. Okay, and now one thing he did on this, if you look here on the top, there's a little mark right there. It's the only mark on that. The other rotor has a mark exactly like that. Okay, that is where you probably want to have your first magnet position. That's what you want to use, as the 12 o'clock position right here, and set up your clock face when you get ready to do your layout. And to make sure you have your clock face set up right, I would highly recommend you take and make a cardboard template of your exact diameter of that rotor. Okay, now again, if you're using 12 magnets, you're going to set it up just like a clock face. Okay, go ahead and draw your locations out there. You use this template, you can use this for 2 things. You make a second copy of it, and then cut out the locations where your magnets are going to go and use it as a template, so your magnets are in the same exact spot for both rotors. Okay, or you can measure each one however you want to do it. That's how I do it. Now you take this same setup here and you set it up. Use this to set and determine how big your stator has to be, and that stator is what's going to hold your coils. Okay. Now some guys like to make rounded coils. Other guys like to make these little triangular shaped coils. You get more area coverage with this type of a coil than you do with a rounded one. Okay, a rounded one is only going to hit these 2 far points. Okay, this here you're going to have more depth and maximum width. Plus, when you start putting coils together, the pattern keeps it fairly uniform all the way around. Let me move this out of the way here. Position these where they're probably going to be at. Okay, and they just lay there, and when you tape these together, they just follow the pattern all the way around your setup. Okay, but let's get back to the other thing here. And remember, when you set up your cardboard template, you got 12 magnets, so you had 360 degrees divided by 12 gives you each distance between each location here. Now you're going to have your stator is a little bit bigger. Okay, so it's going to have 9 coils on your stator, so you take 360 degrees and divide that by 9, will give you each of your locations here. Okay, now to find your halfway point, which would show you where your magnet locations will be per phase, you just take a piece of paper and put a tick mark here and lay it across here and put a tick mark there. Take those and just fold it in half. That's going to give you your center mark. Okay, now this inside area where this is where your bolt pattern is that connects your 2 rotors together. Now you'll have on here, he has 5 bolts that come through and connect these 2 stators together with a spacer in between. That lets you have enough space in between here for the stator to rest. Okay, but you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, or excuse me, 6. Is that right? Yeah, he's got 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. These other 3 holes here, you won't see them on the other rotor that he's got. These had threads in here, so you can get some all thread, run this through that. That raises and lowers this up as you tighten it. You can take and spot weld some nuts on the all thread, and it's what they call them. They call jack bolts. That way you can raise and lower this, bring it in and or out without these 2 rotor plates slamming together safely. I wouldn't do it any other way, because if you get your hand caught in between these 2 rotors, you're in big trouble. Okay, so remember to when you set up your rotors, one of your plates, you put in also the jack bolts and find out what size thread. If you're going to do it yourself or have a machine shop do it, take it down and make sure you give them the actual all thread with a nut on it, so they make sure the thread holes, the thread pattern matches. And then all you have to do is make 3 jack bolts and you're ready to go. Okay, so that's a little safety right there just for setting that up. Now let's get back to your stator setup. Now on the Belgrade setup, he's already has the mounts for the stator. So I've kind of figured out this inside line here represents this rotor here. Now the magnet positions are going to be roughly right on these tick marks. It's a 1-inch round magnet I'm going to be using. I might have like an 1/8 inch gap right here from just off the line. So my magnets are going to be sitting just like that. These coils are going to be positioned basically like that. Just enough room that I can still keep them inside the casting and not touch inside the place where the bolt pattern is, which is represented by this circle here. So that lets me know what size my coils have to be made. Okay, now since he's already got the bolt holes already set up, I took and cut out the center spot, which shows where the bolt patterns that hold the 2 stator or 2 rotors together, and also made the holes in here that show where the bolt pattern is that's already on this wind generator he's made. So now all I have to do is superimpose these holes here, alright, onto this, and make sure when I lay out my coils that none of the coils are sitting over there where the holes are at, because you don't want anything coming through that. They'll be off to one side. And that also lets me know if I have to kind of relocate the mounts a little bit or if it's all going to work out. Okay, so again, that's some of the things I do just in cardboard before I even start doing it in metal. Okay, I already had these all made before I even started with this. Okay, now when you've got your stator all laid out, the tick marks represent where each one coil will be set right here in between each mark. Okay, the next one will go from here and here and here and all the way around. That lets you know what dimensions you have to work with to make your coil. So what I did is I made a jig out of some wood, and it lays right in between there exactly, and it gives me the clearance on the back side, and not necessarily worried about the clearance here because I won't be widening the coil all that farther down. I actually made another template of this that was shorter than that, but this one worked out fine. And what I did is I made a little homemade coil winding jig. Let's see if I can get this back together with one hand. There we go. And this width here, I decided I was going to go with a 3/4 inch thick coil. So what I've got, I went down to Home Depot and got some spacers that slide over these bolts. And it gives it 3/4 of an inch thickness in the coil. And what this does, it slides on this little homemade coil winding jig. Let me see if I can get this on here. It's basically like that. And this coil winding jig cost me a whole $2.54, and all it is some 2x4s with some all thread, another little piece of wood, some more all thread, and I just turn it like this. Alright, and count the number of windings. I have a nut and washer on this side and one on this side that hold this in place. these little nuts right here go on the end of these posts on the actual coil jig itself. Okay, and on the top, on one side I put a little notch here, and on the other side I put another notch here. When I start winding the coils, I'll bring the wire in, run it through here, and the excess will wrap around the shaft here. And as I'm winding this, once it's done, the last strand will come over the end of the coil, will come through this notch, and I'll clip off whatever excess, and then I'll tape this up after I take it off of here. But it made these coils pretty good, nice and tight. Took me about a couple of minutes per coil, so in about an hour and a half, 2 hours I was done with it, but I took breaks in between and didn't spend a whole lot of money. I say $2.54, and there's your little coil winding jig. So anyway, when you get ready to do your coils, I'll have another part of a video kind of showing what I do to make the jig to set the coils in, which will also have these holes, will also have pins that's the same size bolts for the stator mount is already in that position, so when after it's poured, all I have to do is line up 3 of the holes on the stator and slide it onto the mount, and it's good to go. I don't have to worry about trying to line up the stator on the setup and keep it centered in your coils. That's pretty almost impossible to do. That's why I'll go ahead and have the mold will have these locations already with a bolt in there, and I just put wax on it so the fiberglass compound that I pour the stators with won't stick to it, and it just pops right out. Alrighty, so that's just kind of like part 1 of how to build your stator and rotors. Hope this helps. I'll try to come up with some follow-up videos later on. Alright guys, have a good one. Bye-bye.